So employment branding has changed quite a bit over the past 10 or 15 years. With the advent of social media and transparent review sites like Glassdoor and Indeed, companies now don't control the brand like they once did.
Welcome to the All-In Recruitment podcast by Manatal, where we explore best practices, learnings, and trends with leaders in the recruitment space. If you've liked our content so far, please subscribe to our channels on YouTube and Spotify and stay tuned for our weekly episodes. I am your host, Lydia, and with us today is Matthew Adam, who is the EVP and Chief Talent Strategist at NAS Recruitment Innovation based in Ohio. Welcome to the show, Matthew.
Hi, Lydia. Thanks so much for having me.
So, Matthew, tell us about your role at NAS Recruitment. You've got a great growth story within the company, I understand.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm kind of a unicorn where I've been with the same organization for going on 28 years now. So I started with them right out of college, and it's been a unique experience where I've been able to stay with one organization throughout my career, but do lots of different things under the same umbrella. So I feel pretty fortunate that I've had a long tenured career all with the same organization.
You started off with them in college. So what was your role then, and how did you transition? What were those key ingredients that led to your growth in the company?
Yeah, I've done probably 6 or 7 jobs within the past, 25 years. I started out in a frontline customer service role, working directly with our client partners on a day-to-day basis. And that really helped me to understand the business, to understand what our clients needed, what their requirements and desires were. I moved into sales shortly thereafter and then into managing a team. I've moved around the country a little bit for this organization too. And right now my role is Chief Talent Strategist, which is really just a fancy way to say that I'm involved with some of our larger, more strategic client partners. And I do a lot of this kind of stuff, a lot of thought leadership and giving back to the HR community, with some thought leadership content.
How big is the organization now?
Yeah, so we've been around for a long time, and currently we're at about 65, 70 employees. We're a virtual company at this point, so we have people all throughout the North America and United States.
Okay, and I understand that the company has been operating for 70 years now, and today they're focusing on recruitment marketing, correct? So walk us through briefly the evolution of this company.
Yeah, so yes, we started in 1947, so we're going on 75 years at this point. And, for the first 50 years of our existence, we pretty much did one thing, and that was Sunday newspaper ads. So that's typically how people found jobs in North America, at least until the late 90s. So honestly, all that we did was helping clients get their ads structured and put together for a Sunday newspaper run. And that was really the first 50 years. Since then, we've gone through pretty dramatic changes where we've evolved to the job boards, the onset of Monster.com, Online Career Center, CareerBuilder.com, and now we've evolved into this kind of Web 2, Web 3.0, where we're helping clients with programmatic ad buying, social media recruiting, geofencing, retargeting, all the fun new ways that we're using to find talent nowadays.
So what are some trends in recruitment marketing that you've observed maybe in the past 5 to 10 years, for instance?
Yeah, so in the past 5 to 10 years, we've really worked to help organizations move beyond a post and pray methodology. So a lot of companies were still, even a couple of years ago, relying on posting jobs to 1 or 2 job boards and kind of waiting for candidates to come to them. The problem with that is that candidates have really changed the way they look for jobs. They look for jobs now via their social networks. They're starting their searches on Google or Bing or their favorite search engine. And, with the advent of mobile devices, we're now able to target and attract candidates right where they are, no matter where they are. So we've really worked closely with our client partners to evolve their strategies to be much more strategic, much more pinpointed, so that you're really finding the right talent at the right time, as opposed to posting on a general job board and waiting for candidates to come to you.
So what were those learnings, or, within NAS, I'm sure that there was also a pivot, and there's also some kind of shift from doing things traditionally to all the multifaceted ways in which you can reach out to candidates, especially digital, right? So what were some ways or some change mechanisms that were employed inside the company in order to do this?
Yeah, we changed our company top to bottom. So from the people that we hire, the people that we have working for our client partners, and even the technology that we built internally, proprietarily. So from a people standpoint, we needed individuals who understood the space and were more strategic thinkers as opposed to, ad processors. So we went through an evolution of hiring folks who were, Google certified, who knew the ins and outs of putting together a social media strategy, who were versed in mobile strategies and geofencing tactics. Combined with that, we've also built our own technology, which is a recruitment marketing platform, which essentially supercharges a company's career site.
So we think the company's career site.
Yep, that's right. Yep. And it's a cloud-based software as a service solution that really supercharges a company's career site. We think that's a really important asset that a company has, big employment branding asset. And a lot of companies it's underutilized. So with our technology, we free up your job content. We make sure you're mobile enabled. We make sure that it's really an intuitive way for candidates to find the information they're looking for quickly and easily.
Okay, so this platform allows your clients to look into their career portals or their career websites, right? And it helps them build a site by itself? Or?
Yes, so we help them build it, and it's powered by technology that frees up the job content so that it really works for the organization.
So on that note, employer branding, right? So what might be 3 hurdles you've seen for employer branding today? There are plenty, especially in the disruptive environments that we've been seeing today.
So employment branding has changed quite a bit over the past 10 or 15 years. With the advent of social media and transparent review sites like Glassdoor and Indeed, companies now don't control the brand like they once did. It's not a one-way communication from employee to employer, from employer to employee. Now it's really two-way dialogue, and candidates in some ways have a better sense as to what the organization is like from the outside without having to work there to understand what the culture could be like, what people like or don't like about their environment. So that's forced organizations to be very authentic when they're crafting their brand. They have to make sure that it's really consistent with what the marketplace is telling them. And, the example I always give is you can't say that you're an organization that values work-life balance if you're expecting your people to work 10-hour days, 6 days a week. Again, maybe in the old world, you were able to do that and get away with it. But today, with sites like Glassdoor and so forth, that, people will know right from the beginning that that's, not a consistent brand with the message that you've got out there.
So that is ensuring that what you're putting out there, how you're positioning yourself as a company, has to match what you practice within the company, right? Precisely.
And honestly, there's a lot of benefits to doing that. First of all, it's what candidates want. Candidates want that peek under the tent as to, what it's really like on the inside. And by giving them that, you allow a candidate to opt in or opt out for the right reasons. And we've seen a lot of studies that show that if you do this and do it properly and authentically, you'll not only get better fit candidates, but candidates and employees that will stay longer over time. They won't feel like they were sold a bill of goods to get them through the door and then only to be disappointed and cause a lot of churn afterwards. So doing strong employment brands that are honest about who you are has a lot of benefits, not only in attraction, but also the retention element as well.
So, this is just me being curious, but do you also deal with candidates on top of the recruitment marketing, just the outreach and the inbound interest? Do you deal with that directly with the candidates?
In a sense, we do. So we work closely with the companies, and part of our discovery, part of our employment branding development is to get that voice of the candidate, get the voice of the employee, to make sure that we're creating messaging that really connects with their end audience. And, it's not built just for higher level executives or, the boardroom. We want to make sure that it connects with the people who are actually doing the job. So a big part of what we do is making sure that that messaging is relatable and that it's motivating to the right candidates to take action.
With the right kind of input, right, from all the stakeholders that are going to be bought into the whole process.
Precisely. Yeah, sometimes there is a disconnect between what the again, executive level believes that why people join versus why people actually join. So our goal is to get to that nugget of truth from the people who are actually doing the job day in and day out.
Now we're seeing widespread use of ChatGPT among other AI tools, and ChatGPT is obviously one of the biggest trends to be, that people are hopping onto, and they're using it in different ways. So what are your thoughts on its impact on employer branding and just the overall strategies for recruitment marketing?
Oh my gosh, I can't wait for ChatGPT to change our industry. Every new technological development at some point affects our world of employment branding and recruitment marketing. So social media, mobile devices, programmatic ad buying, all that comes to our world at some point. ChatGPT is hot off the press, and I don't know that I fully or anyone knows how it's going to affect our space, but I think there's potential for implications around creative development. ChatGPT has the ability to potentially build brands in the future, or at least germinate ideas, germinate concepts that can be massaged by our creative teams. I think that's an element. I think in addition, the real change is going to be what types of talent companies need to hire in the future. So if ChatGPT can do some lifting of certain jobs or disintermediate certain jobs, but create others, I think that's where we'll see some real wholesale changes just in the makeup of the workforce.
That's a great point. Yeah, just the evolution of technology affecting the needs within the company and how you see talent as being of value to the projects that you're doing, right? In tandem with the use of technology. I think that's a great point. Yeah. So for talent strategists, how should they prepare? What should they do to prepare for this new wave?
So no matter what comes around, there's always new tools and techniques that are continuing to evolve. My mindset has always been to not get stuck in a way of doing things and be open to change. And I've seen it with senior level people who have been doing this for 30 years. I've seen it with new people as well. As long as you're open to experimenting with new ways, you'll always find ways to improve your processes. So a good example of this is, the media strategies component that we've done. So we've started to do what's called programmatic ad buying, which is the algorithmic purchase of media in real time. It sounds fancy, but it's really just a way to buy media much more effectively than we ever could before, than any single human being could before. And by employing this, it's helping organizations spend their money more effectively and get better results at the end of the day. So, with every new technology that comes along, there's going to be good and bad to it, but try to look for the good and try to embrace, the positives that it can bring.
So what are some ways that strategists, those in the talent space, can align their strategies, recruitment or talent development with business needs?
Yeah, so I always think the best way for recruiters to be effective is to have clear lines of communication with both the candidates that they're recruiting for, as well as the hiring managers that they're working for. And by doing that and keeping an open line of communication between those two entities, you can really be the bridge to help both sides understand where the right positioning is. So sometimes, for example, hiring managers have unrealistic expectations of what the market can bear, what salaries would work for people, what skill sets the market has, whereas the recruiter is in a unique position where they can really help bridge that gap to make sure that both candidates and the hiring managers understand what's at stake and what available talent there is out there.
Speaking of employer, the EVP, for example, the company's EVP, how in your opinion, how often should it be reassessed or revisited in terms of relevance to the kind of candidate market or the candidate-driven market that we're seeing today?
Yeah. Our general rule of thumb used to be about 5 years. I think that's shrinking. So it's, every 2 to 3 years. Mm-hmm. And really what we look for too is big changes within an organization, either internally or externally. So changes in leadership, changes in, company makeup, changes in the outside environment, things like COVID, things like work from home environments that might shift. Anytime you have some type of wholesale change, that's a good chance for you to just take a step back and assess to make sure that the employment brand is still resonating with the culture, with the authentic, nature of your organization. So I would say every 2 years is safe, but again, just depends on what's happening in your micro and macro environment. So
in the outreach that you do, the programmatic ads, the different ways in which you reach out, and social recruitment, for instance, this is on a negative. But if you don't find the kinds of candidates that you're looking for, what might be the next step in terms of a contingency plan?
Yeah, we've been dealing with that a lot lately. Mm-hmm. The market is super tight. At least last year in 2022 and 2023, the jury's still out. But right now, for a lot of roles, there is still a big war for talent and more jobs than there are candidates to fill them. So we've had to get very creative in outreach. We've had to get creative in positioning of these opportunities, and we've had to get pretty aggressive. So, sometimes we could rely on just passive tactics, such as posting an ad, waiting for people to come in. Now we're doing things that are more, building talent communities, building talent pools, and doing direct email outreach, doing direct text outreach, making sure we're staying in front of these candidates on a regular basis. So a lot more tactics that are more aggressive, more in your face to make sure that, we're getting the right, our fair share of the talent that's out there.
So in other words, just, the clients that you represent, they're constantly top of mind for these candidates. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we want to make sure that even if someone's fully employed, which most good candidates are nowadays, if they ever get to a point where they're thinking about making a move or thinking about a change, that our organizations are top of mind when they're thinking about that, making that move.
So Matthew, going back a little bit to your point earlier about the employer brand not being entirely in the hands of the employer anymore, right? They're changing demands from candidates today. And so what are your thoughts on managing the perception of the employer brand in the face of negative reviews or feedback? How do you manage that?
Well, first of all, you can't ignore it. So we have a lot of companies who kind of pretend that it doesn't exist, and that's not a strategy. You have to have purview into what candidates are saying, good, bad, or indifferent, and to own that. I would say that most candidates are pretty realistic. Like, they know that if they see a bad review, it's not necessarily means that they're a bad organization. It could just be one person's opinion. But at the same point, if you're seeing consistent negative reviews in a specific area, those are areas that organizations need to address and address head on. So we've done a number of things to help companies, first of all, understand what's being said out there and make sure that you're monitoring that on a regular basis. That's part of your cadence. But more importantly, having a strategy to address that. So having your own brand ambassadors who are counterbalancing some of that negative commentary, making sure that the good parts of your story are being told and are communicated in a way that candidates can find that as well.
There is the programmatic ads approach, and then there's also the building of the employer brand and the the projection of that on different channels, right? So do you see that the take-up for jobs that are out there for a specific company, for instance, is directly impacted by the employer brand? Is there any kind of insight into that?
Yeah, absolutely. So our philosophy is that your career site is your number one employment branding asset outside of your own employees. So everything that we do from a media strategy is designed to drive traffic back to an organization's career site where you have a candidate's undivided attention and can tell your story exactly how you want it. So whether it's an ad on LinkedIn or Glassdoor, the goal is to get them off of those sites and onto your career site as quickly as possible. But the messaging should be consistent at every touch point that you have with a candidate. So it's kind of like the Nike swoosh, no matter where you see it, it's the same, and you know it without even seeing the words Nike. And that's the way an employment brand should be. It should be consistent no matter where a candidate is starting their search, whether it's on Google or social media or right on the career site, that they have that same consistent messaging coming through at every touch point.
And we are in a unique environment in which we're seeing large tech companies and mass layoffs, and overnight people are left without a job, and they've probably served a long time in a specific company, and they perhaps also invested in the employer brand. So what are some ways to approach employer branding or even recruitment marketing strategies in the midst of layoffs or hiring freeze, etc.?
Right. Yeah, it's tough. I would say right now so in our current environment, Twitter has had rounds of layoffs. I just read today they're laying off another 10% of their staff. It's been front page news, what's the pandemonium that's going on inside that organization. And that's tough to offset in a employment brand and a recruitment marketing message. So part of it is being honest about the transition, the situation that an organization is in. If they're laying off people, if they're not hiring, just being transparent about the fact that, the business is going through a metamorphosis. There's lots of transition going on, but that is also creating opportunities for the right types of folks. And that's why we're still recruiting for these types of roles. So, being authentic and, just honest about, the transition that's happening, I think is the best approach.
And what are some indicators of a successful employer branding campaign?
So the beauty of everything we do nowadays is the metrics are out there, and we can tell you where a candidate starts their job search, how they path through, where they drop off, how long they stay on a site, what videos they're watching, everything we can track and understand. And so it's a beautiful thing from a analytics and a ROI standpoint for branding and investing in some of these recruitment marketing strategies. So typically what we're looking for is a couple different things. We're looking for top of funnel traffic. So how many people are finding and responding to your jobs, and then conversion rates as well. So once people see it, once they digest the job, are they wanting to learn more? Are they wanting to apply further? So those are a couple things that we look for. And then ultimately what we're really trying to get to is, where do your best hires come from? So when you hire someone in a year, 2 years down the road, and they're your superstars, we want to be able to track all the way back to that original source of where they found out about you, whether it was a referral, whether it was from a specific site like LinkedIn or Glassdoor, or whether it was from, the career site experience.
By doing this exercise, have you seen a pattern of success? Going back to the point of origin, how they came to find out about the company and their success in the company.
Yeah, it's crazy. We're seeing all kinds of different patterns, and it's funny. It's different from company to company. It's different from sometimes position to position within the organization. So again, I think that speaks to the fact that in the old world, kind of like what we started talking about, everyone looked at the Sunday newspaper, everyone looked at monster.com to find a job. Now the way people are looking for jobs is totally different depending on lots of different factors. Your background, whether you're actively or passively looking, your age, lots of those things come into play. And so, every company is a little different. So you have to create a strategy that's right for your organization.
Now, speaking of tracking and metrics, etc. There are plenty of tools out there to automate hiring, and one of them is our tool, like in Manatal. So how might technology, Matthew, help in ensuring successful hiring practices?
I'm seeing tools every day that are helping to automate different portions of the hiring process. So some are around job distribution, getting your jobs out free and easily so that candidates can find them. Some are about scheduling, using some AI interfaces so that candidates can schedule without having a human interaction, human contact. Some are video recording interviews. My kids are doing many of those nowadays where they're doing their first interview via recorded session. So I think there's lots of new tools and techniques that are allowing companies to let recruiters focus on the strategic work that they really need to work on, and not some of that back and forth scheduling and tasking.
So, you've given so many great insights today, especially, very specific to employer branding, recruitment marketing, and the changing aspects of it across 10, 20 years, and even, going back as far as 70 years for NAS, right? So what advice would you give someone starting out in recruitment marketing today?
So, the principles that I started working under are still the same. And that's connecting with candidates in a way that is honest about what you have to offer. So to me, the best recruitment marketing campaigns, the best employment brands are just about being honest about your organization, what you offer, and allowing candidates to self-select in or out, depending on whether they think that's a good fit. And I think that's healthy. I think that's good for the candidate. It's good for the employer when that happens. And I think the tools are getting more sophisticated to allow candidates to make better educated decisions. And I think the tools are getting better for companies to make better educated decisions for candidates as well. So my life's work over the past 30 years is helping companies, find the right talent that's going to help them grow and help them be successful. And I think we've gotten a lot better at it over the years, just with the leveraging of technology and some of the tools that are out there.
Thank you very much, Matthew, for your time, your insights, and being so generous with the knowledge and experience you've had. The audience listening in will probably want to connect with you as well. So where can they find you?
Of course. Yes. Thank you, Lydia. This has been really fun. So thank you for including me on this. So again, Matt Adam with NAS Recruitment Innovation. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can also email me at madam@nasrecruitment.com.
Perfect. And we have been in conversation with Matthew Adam, EVP and Chief Talent Strategist at NAS Recruitment Innovation, based in Ohio, the United States. So if you've liked our content so far, please subscribe to our channels to stay tuned for more weekly episodes from All in Recruitment. Thank you very much.